She screamed so loud, even the crows flew off the fence. "You're trespassing!" she yelled, standing right in front of my truck like she owned the dirt under my tires. I rolled down the window slowly, trying to understand what I was looking at. This lady, wearing a visor, holding a clipboard, and blocking my way to my own gate. "This is private HOA property," she barked. "You can't just drive in here without permission." I almost laughed. The land she was standing on, the one with her fancy little HOA resident only sign, was mine. My grandfather bought it back in the 70s, long before these cookie-cutter houses and their neighborhood rules existed. I stepped out of the truck calmly. "Ma'am, you're standing on my land." She squinted like I'd just spoken another language. "No, this is Maple Creek HOA. You must be lost." That's when I pulled out the old, faded land deed from my glove box. I'd been keeping it on me ever since the HOA started mailing me letters addressed to unauthorized occupant. They'd even tried to fine me once for cutting down a tree on my own property. Karen snatched the paper right out of my hand, scanned it, and said, "This doesn't mean anything. We have HOA maps that say otherwise." Her voice trembled a bit, though. She knew she'd crossed the line. I took a deep breath. "Then maybe you should call your HOA president," I said, trying to stay calm. "We'll clear this up real quick." But instead of calling the president, she called the cops. Right there in front of me, she dialed 911 and shouted into the phone, "There's a trespasser threatening me on HOA property." I froze for a second, not out of fear, but disbelief. She was really doing this. I could hear the dispatcher asking questions through her speaker, but Karen twisted the story like a pro. "He's aggressive. He's refusing to leave." I leaned against my truck and muttered, "This is gonna be fun." Because what she didn't know was that the real property line ran 20 feet behind her backyard fence, and every single house in her HOA, it was technically built on my land. By the time the sheriff's cruiser pulled up, Karen was already rehearsing her tears. She waved her arms like she was calling for rescue. "Officer, thank God you're here! This man is harassing residents. He's been trespassing on private HOA property." The deputy stepped out, hand resting on his holster, and looked at me. "Sir, can I see some ID?" I handed it over calmly, then passed him the folded deed and survey map. "You might want to look at those first," I said. "This isn't HOA property. It's my family's land. Always has been." Karen jumped in before he could respond. No, we have documents. HOA owns everything inside the gates." The deputy raised an eyebrow. "Ma'am, this isn't even a gated community. There's just a plastic sign nailed to a post." She blinked, realizing how bad that sounded. "Well, it's symbolic," she stammered. I almost laughed, but I kept my cool. "Officer, check the county records. Parcel 14B, Maple Creek. It's under my name." The deputy sighed and walked back to his car. Karen turned to me, lowering her voice. "You're making a mistake. Our HOA president has friends at the county office. You'll regret this." That line told me everything. This wasn't just her being nosy. She thought she could scare me off. 10 minutes later, the deputy returned with a very different tone. "Sir," he said to me, "you're right. This land belongs to you. In fact, looks like a portion of the HOA's backyard lots extend about 20 feet onto your property line." Karen's face went pale. That can't be right," she sputtered. The deputy tilted his head. "You folks might want to get your paperwork sorted out before accusing people of trespassing." Then he turned to leave, clearly done with the nonsense. Karen stood there trembling, still clutching her clipboard like it could protect her. "You can't just take our land." I smiled faintly. "Didn't take it, ma'am. You built on it." Her jaw dropped, and for the first time, she didn't have anything to say. But I could see it in her eyes. She wasn't done. She was already planning her next move. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of hammering. At first, I thought one of the neighbors was fixing a fence, but when I looked out the window, my jaw tightened.
Karen had gathered 3 HOA board members and a handyman, and they were putting up a brand new private HOA property no entry sign right at my driveway entrance. I walked over, coffee in hand. "Morning, Karen," I said, keeping my tone even. "Didn't we clear this up yesterday?" She didn't even look at me. "We've decided to reinforce HOA boundaries," she said loudly, as if giving a press conference. "This road is part of the Maple Creek community now." "Part of my land," I corrected. She spun around, eyes flaring. "Listen here, just because you found some old paper doesn't mean you can do whatever you want. We have legal rights too." I took a slow sip of coffee. "If you're so confident, you won't mind if I get the county surveyor involved." Her expression flickered for a second, then she waved to the handyman. "Keep working, ignore him." The man hesitated, looking between us. "Ma'am, if this really isn't HOA property—" "Do it!" she snapped. That's when I pulled out my phone and started recording. "Just want to get this on video," I said, smiling. "Since you're building a sign on my land again?" Karen froze for a split second, then whispered to her friend, "He's trying to intimidate us with filming. That's harassment." One of the board members whispered back, "Karen, maybe we should stop until we check the—" "No, he's bluffing!" She cut him off. But I wasn't bluffing. What they didn't know was that I'd already called the county assessor that morning. I'd emailed them pictures of the first incident, the police visit, the false claim, and now they were sending an official out to verify the boundaries. As I stood there watching them hammer that sign deeper into my land, I couldn't help but grin. Karen thought she was winning again, but soon the truth was gonna crush her HOA like a house of cards.
By noon, the county truck rolled up, big seal on the door, Property Survey Department. The moment Karen saw it, she froze mid-sentence. The officer stepped out, clipboard in hand, and looked straight at her crew, still holding the private HOA sign. "Who authorized this construction?" he asked. Karen forced a smile. "We did, Maple Creek HOA. This road belongs to our community." The surveyor didn't even blink. He unfolded a large printed map lined with red markers. "Actually, according to the county records, this entire stretch, from that mailbox," he pointed, "to those trees near the pond, belongs to Mr. Miller." Karen's face went blank. "That can't be right. Our president said—" The officer interrupted gently. "Your HOA was built partly on his property, 5 houses to be exact. Seems your developer never filed the corrected plat before construction, which means he's the legal owner." You could have heard a pin drop. Even the hammer in the handyman's hand hung midair. Karen's voice cracked. "You're saying we've been living on his land?" The surveyor nodded. "Technically, yes, you've been trespassing for years." I folded my arms, trying not to smile too wide. "That explains all the HOA letters I've been getting. Guess they were sending mail from my own property." The board members looked mortified. One of them muttered, "Oh my God, we could get sued." Karen, though, still wasn't ready to surrender. She blurted out, "We can fix this. We'll redraw the maps, vote on a merger." "Ma'am," the surveyor said flatly, "you can't vote your way out of a recorded deed." She stood there trembling, realization finally hitting her. Her whole little empire, the rules, the fines, the fake authority, had been built on sand. I stepped closer, keeping my tone calm but sharp. "Next time you scream about trespassing, make sure you're not standing on someone else's land." Karen didn't answer. She just turned around slowly, eyes glassy, and walked back toward her car, while the others quietly followed. The sign she'd ordered to be planted was left half buried in the dirt, crooked, pointless, and perfectly symbolic. A week later, I got a certified letter. The Maple Creek HOA had officially dissolved. Karen had resigned as president for personal reasons. As I looked out across the open land, no signs, no shouting, no fake authority, I couldn't help but smile. I whispered to myself,
I didn't fight for this country just to ask permission to stand on my own ground.